the camera's flipped. I'm going to read it for you, so it's all good. Let's see. So this was written in 1973, and it's all handwritten, right? So every word in the book is written by hand. Okay. All right. So we'll begin at the beginning. To all who were my teachers and still are. Forward. This book is handwritten because, in its way, it is a love letter, and love letters should not be typeset by compositors or computers. It may be a little slower to read, but there is no hurry, for what I want to share with you took a long time to experience. I write in the first person singular, but when I speak of I really mean you. Quote, deeply thinking of it, I and other people, there is no difference, as there is no mind beyond the mind. It's from the Ikkyu, 15th century. Let's see here. Introduction. An experiment in seeing that became an unforgettable experience. The letter invited me to give what is called a workshop. The subject, creativity in a non-creative environment. Whatever that meant. I accepted for mixed and not too noble reasons. But then the time drew near, and escape was no longer possible. I became nervous. I had never attended such a weekend gathering on campus, let alone given one. What was I going to do? 60-odd people between 18 and 64 had registered and paid for the workshop. How was I going to keep them busy, or even awake for those 2.5 days? I feverishly prepared lectures and a pack of slides on art as material for questions and discussions. I would start with an introductory talk on the relationship between drawing, painting, and sculpture. But it all turned out differently. In that first lecture, I asked the rhetorical question, who is man? The artist? And answered it by saying, he is the unspoiled core of every man before he is choked by schooling, training, conditioning, until the artist within shrivels up and is forgotten. Even in the artist who is professionally trained to be consciously creative, this unspoiled core shrivels up in the rush toward a personal style, in the heat of a competition to be in. And yet I added that core is never killed completely. At times it responds to nature, to beauty, to life, suddenly aware again of being in the presence of a mystery that battles understanding and which only has to be glimpsed to renew our spirit and to make us feel that life is a supreme gift. Many years of preoccupation with Zen have kept me awake to the experience of this opening up of life. Suddenly, I noticed that the strangers' faces in front of me began to look less strange. I was making contact, and encouraged by this rapport, I forgot my carefully hatched lecture and started to talk freely about seeing, about drawing as the way of seeing, about something I called seeing/drawing. I coined that on the spot. And about this seeing/drawing as a way of meditation, a way of getting into ultimate touch with the visible world around us, and through it, with ourselves. He has little drawings. Let's see. A non-creative environment is one that constantly bombards us, I said. Overloads our switchboards with noise, with agitation, and visual stimuli. Once we can detach ourselves from all these distractions, find a way of inscape, of centering, the same environment becomes creative. Seeing drawing is such a way of inscape from the overloaded switchboard. It establishes an island of silence, an oasis of undivided attention, an environment to recover in. During the question period that followed, I found out that although there were in my workshop a textile designer, a few teachers, and various people who confessed to dabbling in painting, there were no professional artists. One of the teachers said, "I'd love to try your seeing/drawing, but how on earth do I start? I can't even draw a straight line." "I'll show you tomorrow morning," I promised. For she had given me the idea that was to become this book. If you aren't aware, we are reading The Zen of Seeing. The next morning, it was a sunny spring day. I distributed cheap sketch pads and pencils and transferred my workshop to the grounds of the college. I asked that participants sit down somewhere on the lawn, anywhere, as long as you leave at least 6 feet of space between one another. Don't talk, just sit and relax. Now, let your eyes fall on whatever happens to be in front of you. It may be a plant or a bush or a tree or perhaps just some grass. Close your eyes for the next 5 minutes. Now, open your eyes and focus on whatever you observed before. That plant or leaf or dandelion, look it in the eye until you feel it looking back at you. Feel that you are alone with it on earth, that it is the most important thing in the universe, that it contains all the riddles of life and death, for it does. You are no longer looking, you are seeing. Now take your pencil loosely in your hand, and while you keep your eyes focused, allow the pencil to follow on the paper what the eye perceives. Feel as if with the point of your pencil you are caressing the contours of the whole circumference of that leaf, that sprig of grass. Just let your hand move. Don't check what gets onto the paper. It does not matter at all. If your pencil runs off the paper, that's fine too. You can always start again. Only don't let your eye wander from what it is seeing, and don't lift your pencil from your paper. And above all, don't try too hard. Don't think about what you're drawing. Just let the hand follow what the eye sees. Let it caress. They sat and saw and drew for hours until lunchtime, like good children. I walked around a few times, pointed at a curling, an unfurling, a drooping, a shriveling, a branching, a striving, a groping. A pretentious one in owl glasses was doing a spiky abstraction. I tried to talk her into using her eyes. Quote, "Please realize you are not making a picture. You are not being creative. We are just conducting an experiment in seeing, in undivided attention. The experiment is successful if you succeed in feeling you have become that leaf or that daisy, regardless of what appears on the paper." Then for a while I forgot about them, for I discovered a marvelously hairy caterpillar on a leaf. I could not resist it. At lunch, my workshop decided unanimously to continue until dinner time. Wonderful. And then let's have an exhibition tonight, but one that is strictly anonymous. Don't sign your drawings. You'll recognize your own, and that is all that is necessary. No prizes, no honorable mentions. Arrange your drawings on the tables of the cafeteria or pin them on the walls. Here's his little caterpillar. I'll go around and I'll tell you what I see in them. Then we'll have a general discussion about the experiment. A young woman asked, "Why am I so scared?" Maybe you're afraid you are not a fool of yourself. Let me see, what does that say? Maybe you are afraid you are making a fool of yourself and that all the others are so much better. Or maybe it frightens you to be all on your own, without radio or TV, without talking. Alone in the world with your clump of grass, alone with your eyes. The drawings were a revelation, as were the comments of the people who had made them. There was a drawing of a willow that was as awkward as it was lovely. The willow danced like a prima ballerina, or better, it danced as only willows dance. The woman who drew it was white-haired and in her 60s. "I don't even know how I did it," she said. "I did what you suggested, and then it just happened. I had never drawn since I quit school." The one who couldn't draw a straight line had traced a complex patch of ivy in a spidery handwriting of exquisite sensitivity. The abstract lady had persisted in her spiky triangles, but another said, "I have grown geraniums for 30 years, but believe it or not, I never knew what a geranium looked like, how it was made, until I drew one today." Her drawing had very little resemblance to any geranium, past or present. But then we weren't out to make art, but to experiment with seeing. Someone else said, "I'm a widow and live alone, and I often feel lonely. Today I learned that if you really see the things around you, you're not lonely anymore. I may never be any good at it. But I'll go on drawing." And another, "I have painted for years. I have been in local exhibitions, but today's experience makes me wonder whether I have been deceiving myself, whether I really ever saw. If I really used my eyes. Anyway, it was an unforgettable experience." They all agreed, a wonderful experience. In this 20th century, to stop rushing around, to sit quietly on the grass, to switch off the world and come back to the earth, to allow the eye to see a willow, a bush, a cloud, a leaf, is an unforgettable experience. The Zen of Seeing. So that was the introduction. Really cool, really, really cool. That was written in 1973, this book. And so that experience, that workshop must have happened sometime before 1973. Pretty crazy. So let's keep going. We do a lot of looking. We look through lenses, telescopes, television tubes. Our looking is perfected every day, but we see less and less. Never has it been more urgent to speak of seeing. Ever more gadgets, from cameras to computers, from art books to videotapes, conspire to take over our thinking, our feeling, our experiencing, our seeing. Onlookers we are, spectators, subjects we are, that look at objects. Quickly we stick labels on all that is, labels that stick once and for all. By these labels we recognize everything, but no longer see anything. We know the labels on all the bottles, but never taste the wine. Millions of people, unseeing, joyless, bluster through life in their half-sleep, hitting, kicking, and killing what they have barely perceived. They have never learned to see. Or they have forgotten that man has eyes to see, to experience. When a man no longer experiences, the organs of his inner life wither away. Alone or in herds, he goes on binges of violence and destruction. Looking and seeing both start with sense perception, but there is similarity. There, the similarity ends. When I look at the world and its labels, its phenomena, I make immediate choices, instant appraisals. I like or I dislike, I accept or I reject. What I accept or reject what I look at according to its usefulness to the me, this me that I imagine myself to be and that I try to impose on others. That's going to be all we're doing for now.